I now have a very exciting part of the program, something I've been looking forward to since we started putting this together, and that is a panel that's going to talk about Leadership Mississippi. As I mentioned earlier, this is the 50th year of leadership, and as part of our MEC 75th anniversary celebration, we're really highlighting what leadership has done. Today we have a wonderful panel that's going to be moderated by Amy Tate. Amy is the executive leader for TVA's Southwest region, which means she is the top leader in the state of Mississippi. Her job is to make sure everything goes right. Is that right, Amy? Amy's a very accomplished leader in her own right. Before taking this role, she served at TVA in a variety of positions, particularly in government affairs, but she's been recognized by the community as a top women influencer in the North Mississippi, also been recognized as one of Mississippi's 50th most influential leaders. So again, we're very excited about it, but the reason I'm really excited is Amy is serving as chair of Leadership Mississippi, and I've talked her into serving one more year as well, so she'll be chair next year. So we're excited about her moderating this panel, and at this time I'm going to turn it over and let you introduce who all is with us, and look forward to a great discussion.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Like Scott said, get to chair Leadership Mississippi this year. We've got a wonderful class. Got to spend some time with them recently in Natchez. It's a very energetic group, so I've enjoyed trying to keep up. We've got an esteemed panel with us today, and I'm excited to kick off some questions and just pick your brain about Leadership Mississippi, the history of the program, what you gained from the program, and then any thoughts going forward, if that's okay. So, and I have to get my readers, y'all apologize. I graduated from Leadership Mississippi in '04, so I'm showing my age here. Okay, Governor Barbour, we're going to start with you. No introductions needed. Two-term governor, 04 to 12, is that right? Yes, ma'am. We worked some pretty fun economic development projects back during that time. So Governor, can you tell us what Leadership Mississippi has meant to you personally and how your involvement in the program helped shape your understanding of leadership throughout your career?
Amy, the first thing I would say is I was in the first class of Leadership Mississippi in 1974. So most of y'all weren't born when I was in Leadership Mississippi, but it happened. I was 27 years old, and I had been involved in the 68 presidential campaign around 30 counties for Nixon, and then I was made state director of the census when I was 22 years old, and then I'd been executive director of the Republican Party after that. My point in making that, I had had a good deal of experience in trying to get people to come together. Campaigns, county party organizations, Republican women's clubs. So I had kind of an advantage. And a lot of the people that I met in Leadership Mississippi, I came to know later in politics. Some of them not Republicans, some of them Democrats, but friends of mine. And so I feel like I benefited from it more because I kind of had a head start. But it's been a great program for the state.
That's awesome. That's great. Now, Rosa, you are the executive director of the Jackson Municipal Airport Authority, currently in this year's class of Leadership Mississippi. So as a member of the current class, you're getting some applause. As a member of the current class, what unique qualities define Mississippi's leaders, and how does the program cultivate those qualities?
Amy, that's a great question. As I've had the opportunity to actually travel the state of Mississippi as a part of the program and also travel the state with the Mississippi Airports Associations, I've seen a lot of great qualities of leaders in Mississippi, but the one prominent quality that jumps out at me is the tenacity of the leaders in the state of Mississippi. They are committed to their goals, and they are committed to making Mississippi a better state. They're resilient. about that. And so what I've found is that the leaders aren't stepping away from the challenges that we have. They're trying to navigate those challenges to make improvements. In the program itself, I have a number of my 2024 classmates here, and they can stand up and yell. But the makeup of the class is you have members from every region of the state. You have members of all ages, all different types of professions. And so what we're doing is we're looking at the positives and the negatives, the assets of the state, and we're challenging each other about how we can make the state better. And so having that diversity in the program really have us represent the citizens of the state. And that's how the program really brings that quality forward in the leaders that are actually in the current program.
Very good. Stevie, you handle economic development for Cooperative Energy, also in this year's class. Over the years, one of the things that has made Leadership Mississippi special are the bonds that are built between members of the class. In your time so far in this class, how important is that network of peers, and do you see that already developing in this year's cohort?
Thanks, Amy. As you mentioned, I do economic development for Cooperative Energy. And Governor, you'll know this from your impact on economic development, but as a developer, you have to know a little bit about a lot of things. And so the biggest impact and network has been is the Leadership Mississippi participation has exposed my Rolodex of network to help professionally, just kind of innately. And so, you know, there's people from the Department of Corrections, there's people from healthcare industry, Rosa with the airport, all things that I deal with on a periphery in economic development, but now I have Rosa's phone number to call Rosa when I need something, or the experts, and that's really our job as economic developers, is to find those subject matter experts, and Leadership Mississippi has provided that, which I kind of knew going into it. The other aspect of that is, in addition to professional networking and growing that, the personal networking. I think we all know as we get older and we become adults, it is a little harder to make friends necessarily. You know, you've got other commitments and kids and families. Leadership Mississippi provides a good jump start to making those friends. And so, you know, our first session, one of the members in the cohort, you know, had a game night, and they were up at the West End late that night. I didn't make it, pregnant, so I wasn't there late night, but things like that. And then, you know, our neighborhood foundation had an event. One of the members in the cohort works for Belhaven University right down the street. I was able to text her and say, hey, we need some volunteers. Those kind of outreaches are harder to find as you know, age and get older in your profession. And so the personal connection has been helpful too, as well as professional. So that was kind of a surprise and a big benefit of the program that I was not anticipating.
Yeah, I agree, and I know from my class, and this has been over 20 years ago, I enjoyed the projects, I enjoyed the site visits, but the friendships that I made, that I still call on these folks 20 years later, and also sometimes we get tunnel vision in our own sector. It was so good to have people in other sectors in the state to bounce things off of, especially issues that we can kind of be too close to. So yeah, that's a great point. Okay, Jerome, Powerhouse. So you are Executive Vice President of the First.
Correct.
You work lots in the community. Tell us a little bit about what you do in your role.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me in the panel. And it's good to see so many here this morning. So in my role at the First, I manage several things. One is community development, where there's a regulatory requirement on financial institutions regarding the Community Reinvestment Act. So I oversee that for our company. We're a CDFI, that's a community development financial institution. I manage that arm of the bank. We actually have a bank foundation where I'm the president of the foundation as well. And I oversee corporate social responsibility at the bank. We're in 5 states. We're headquartered in Hattiesburg, maybe 1,100 team members, and you know, my job is to ensure that many of those things in the communities where we have operations go through processes and procedures to ensure we follow those regulatory requirements. But ultimately, I have a team of maybe 9 that assist me in doing that. And I think from my experience with Leadership Mississippi was to ensure that I listen to those other 9. And it's just not my department to run. I allow them to provide input. One of the other things that we do in that role is I manage our advisory board. So in our advisory boards, we have some 65 individuals from throughout the communities that we serve. And so having a relationship with them, and even in Mississippi, some of them are Leadership Mississippi alums. So that relationship piece and everything that was just mentioned here is all a part of that. And so Leadership Mississippi, to me, helped me learn the assets of various communities. We went to maybe 5 cities during that tour. And even in some of those relationships, I'm able to call on those alums and ask them to be a part of that advisory board or come and work for the bank as well. So it has been great for me and my career and everything we do at the First.
And you were a 2014 graduate, is that right?
2014, yes,
And
10 years ago.
Yeah, in addition to the networking and also making sure your team was collaborative, any other valuable lessons you learned from your year?
Yeah, I tell you, one in particular comes to mind, and I'm trying to think of the speakers. It was Andy Taggart and Jerry, I can't remember Jerry Nash, very, very good, Jerry Nash. So these 2 individuals created a book, some 15 years ago, and it was about Mississippi politics. So if you've ever gone through the class, and I'm not sure if they do that now, but these 2 gentlemen really talk about conflict resolution. And what I can recall during that time in that book that they wrote, well, of course, they were on different sides of the aisle, right? One was a Democrat, one was a Republican. But they talked about how Mississippi in that book utilized all the assets that we needed to come together and ensure that we did what was best for Mississippi. And so from that experience, and it's probably a lesson that some of us can take to this day, actually, and I won't touch on that, but the conflict resolution piece related to what those gentlemen shared with us in the class was ideal at the time to get away from the noise and all the politics and do what's best for the state. So I remember that piece as a conflict resolution session during our time at Leadership Mississippi.
Stevie, I'm going to come back down the row if that's okay. So as this year's class has progressed, have you learned specific skills or perspectives from your classmates that you believe you'll be able to use professionally?
Definitely. I mentioned I've been in economic development for over a decade now, which allows me to see a lot of different industries, but it does have a tunnel vision. I think we can all admit to our careers having this is the way we approach topics and issues in Mississippi based on what our profession has been. I think the perspective that the group brings is realizing, Rosa's perspective of issues in Mississippi is very different than mine, even from a personal, professional, whatever it is, but just taking it professional, and you're not exposed to that otherwise. I mean, I'm not going to business meetings representing cooperative energy necessarily talking about a perspective that's not in line with my role in our company. And Leadership Mississippi provides the opportunity to learn from other industries, learn other perspectives, understand that. And then some of the specific skills, Jerome, I don't think we've done the conflict resolution, so we may need a crash course because my resolution of conflict is avoidance. But, we did negotiation skills, which is something that we could all benefit from. We did some nonprofit board training overview. I think a lot of us take that type of knowledge for granted. It's not something that's provided to my profession daily, and so it was a good exposure to that. And I am not one that I like to learn, and we like to steal ideas and not recreate the wheel. So we have a lot of programming that we offer as Cooperative Energy Economic Development, and we've already shared some of the speakers from Leadership Mississippi for ours, so we look like we have the best ideas of programming. And all of that is thanks to Leadership Mississippi and our involvement in some of those perspectives.
Okay, thank you for that. Rosa, how do you view Leadership Mississippi's impact on the state's economic, social, and educational development?
I think the program has a current impact and will have a future impact as well because the leaders are like-minded, but it's an opportunity for us to learn from each other. And just looking at the stage right now, having a graduate who has served as the governor, who has the ability to set policy, fund different programs, that gives you a sense of how individuals coming through the program will eventually transcend into positions that can impact education, that can impact economic development. We have educators in the program from Ole Miss, from Belhaven University. Again, we have economic developers and airport representatives from the coast and from the central Mississippi area. And so the program allows us to hear different perspectives in a safe space. And so when we go back to actually execute, we have that information to translate into decisions that we're making.
Very good. Governor Barbour, as we think about the next generation of leaders, and as we grow our own here in Mississippi, what role can Leadership Mississippi play in that?
Well, this is an interesting thing because here I am out of the class of 50 years ago, and Stevie is in the class of today, and her husband's family is from my home county, and I've known her husband since he was a little boy, and that's kind of the way Mississippi works. We're a friendly state where there are many, many ties that go back generations, or maybe to college, or maybe to a political campaign. But my view is the governor is the chief economic development officer of the state. If there's one thing that the public looks to the governor for, even more than education, because while education may be the most important function, it's not really controlled by the governor. But economic development is. And I always felt like I was judged by economic development, whether it was Toyota or whether it was Airbus or GE Aviation, or go down the list of things that we signed up, or Katrina, where we had to rebuild the economy of our state from almost ground zero. My mama taught me, I was raised by my mother. My daddy died when I was 2 years old, and my mother always taught me that crisis and catastrophe do not create character. Crisis and catastrophe reveal character. And for Mississippi, the character of our people was so revealed to the country that it really changed our image in many, many ways. Part of it was being compared to our sister state, but part of it was the fact that people down here got knocked down flat by the hurricane, and they got back up and hitched up their britches and went to work. And often they went to work helping the little old lady across the street who was a shut-in. That came out over and over and over and over again. And it's why almost none of the industries that were blown away by Katrina left. They almost all rebuilt and strengthened, because this is a great place to live, great place to work, and it's a great place to do business.
Amen. So we're in the process of taking applications for next year's class of Leadership Mississippi. So I want to ask y'all a future forward-looking question. Rosa and Stevie, I will start with y'all. As members of the current class, what can we do to ensure the program is even better and more robust for future class members?
I'll take a page out of my time of Leadership Florida. I think with Leadership Mississippi, we can take the opportunity beyond the program and host regional networking events and promote the program, inviting out graduates, but also participants that are interested in the program. So really making it a promotional opportunity where you can stay engaged as a graduate, but you can also explore what the program is about and how you can contribute as a potential participant in the program.
Asking for feedback on a public stage, Amy, is dangerous.
Go
when
for
you're
it.
asking me.
Go for it.
No, I would say to me, the most thing that could keep Leadership Mississippi going strong is to continue strong cohorts. You know, programs are only as good as the individuals in it, their passion for the state, their role within the state. And so as long as we can continue to get diverse applicants from racial, regional, professional, then we can guarantee that all perspectives are at least being talked about and viewed and understood in Mississippi, particularly as the country and the world changes, where you may not have as much exposure to perspectives. This is a framework that exists, but it's only as good as maintaining that diversity within the cohort, which I would say is only up to those that apply. You know, it's not, you have to apply to be in the program, and if there are some from regions that don't apply, or you know there's less people in a region and it's not encouraged, and then for employers to encourage the right people within your organization to participate in the program. I'm fortunate that our company puts up someone usually every year, and without that corporate support and corporate backing, the program couldn't exist the way it is. That would be my feedback.
Yeah, and Jerome, Rosa and Stevie both mentioned regional collaboration. That seems to be a theme. What can we do to ensure that all the regions are represented and that we're collaborating from North Mississippi down to the coast?
Yeah, sure. I think from my experience, when I went through the class, we went to Oxford and we went to Corinth. And I had never been to Corinth, or Corinth,
Jerome,
right?
Corinth.
Corinth. I've never been to Corinth before. Being from Hattiesburg, we have everything really close to us, and so I spent a lot of time in New Orleans, Mobile, the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but never been to Corinth. And so really understanding that economy there and thinking about even my economy there in Hattiesburg, when you think about healthcare, the military, and USM William Carey, the educational assets, a lot of those communities don't have that. But when I was in Corinth, what I remember is getting an understanding of how the Tom Bigby and how TVA supports that community, and ultimately how the city of Corinth really manages the water system for maybe the entire county and maybe some surrounding counties. I was blown away by that concept, and they had just built this new water filtration system there, and so that became an economic corridor there for that community. And while it's different from my community or where I'm from, I think ultimately we want the same things. And speaking of water, Jackson, Mississippi, we want quality and healthy drinking water, right? And so that community figured out how to do it best with the Tongue Bigby and TVA and those organizations coming together to find common solutions. So as I think about Leadership Mississippi, it's about exposing the next generation to those projects and what can be done in other communities. So just so happen, I may have to do that in some of the communities we serve in and help support communities, you know, for all kind of situations, whether it's the disasters that the governor mentioned, Katrina as an example, but even water as we think about Jackson, and I think about Corinth the same way.
Very good. And I did
Amy,
I didn't plant that talking point about TVA governor, but I'll take it. So you can piggyback on that.
Well, let me just say, this reminds me of when I was first governor. One of the things that we thought was important was to have regional meetings. And so every quarter for the first 2 years I was governor, we stopped after Katrina, but we would go to 8 or 10 counties, set up a base in, say, Brookhaven, or set up a base in Tupelo, and then the governor, I would go to all of the counties, and we would have some sort of meeting in every county. We also worked very hard to get other people in state government to attend some of the meetings, legislators or state officials or people who are employees of the state, because there's always a lot of subject matter. After hearing all the state officials speak earlier, you can think of all the subject matter that those citizens may be interested in. And if you can get the combination of good crowds that include people that are former members of this organization and people who are involved in government, you can combine to pull together a lot of worthwhile ideas. Or maybe you're able to generate is a better understanding of what the state's doing, rather than here's something we want y'all to do, here's something we think y'all don't understand, you need to know more about. But I found it very, very useful, and like I say, we quit doing it after Katrina for obvious reasons. But
So, Governor Barber, if there's anybody out there that's on the fence, might want to apply, not sure about the time commitment, not sure about doing some of these things, what advice would you give them about applying to Leadership Mississippi and what it could do for their career?
like I say, I started out with a head start, but if you're just most people from a county or community, they may know people from college, or they may know people from the church, or they may know people from their daddy's business, but this is a way to extend your reach, and I guarantee you, you're going to learn, you're going to meet people you like, you're going to meet people that are fun, but you're going to meet people that are smart, and people who know stuff about maybe something you don't know something about that you'd like to know something about, or maybe more important, they know something about something you don't know anything about, you need to know something about. And so this is a real way to stretch your view of Mississippi and what we've got going on.
That's right. Before we close, I want to recognize two important groups. First group, if you are an alum of Leadership Mississippi, will you stand up so we can see who in this room has benefited from this program? Give you a big round of applause. And also, we have several members from this year's class. I know they're back there whooping it up. If y'all would stand and let us recognize you. Thank you again so much to our panelists for what you do every day, for what you do promoting Leadership Mississippi. Again, applications are open, mec.ms, and I will turn it back over to you, Scott.